Hi, welcome to the Glowing Skin series. I'm Christine Ho, and today I have Hannah Crum. She's known as the Kombucha Mama and the founder of Kombucha Camp. So, hello, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Christine. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, thank you so much for being here and being a part of the show. So, please tell us your personal story.
Absolutely. So kombucha and I met by fate. I was visiting a friend from college in the early 2000s, and he lived in San Francisco, which is a very groovy place. And one of the stops on the tour of his apartment was a box with jars, and they were covered with claws, and there was weird things floating in them. And they go, "That's the kombucha." Never heard of it, had no idea what it was, but that word, it just sticks in your mind. So when I came back to Los Angeles, I went to Whole Foods and lo and behold, an entire case of kombuchas. And so I grabbed a ginger ale off the shelf, I cracked it open, I had my first sip, and at least for me, the heavens opened up. Now, I know a lot of people, and I don't know if you were like this, Christine, but for them, they go, "Oh, little kombucha face, a little tangy, a little sour." But I was the girl who loved sneaking the pickle juice out of the fridge with my mom yelling at me, "Don't drink that. That's so bad for you." But I just love that kind of salty, sour, savory kind of flavor. So for me, kombucha just really resonated. And like a lot of people, my thirst outgrew my budget. And since I had seen those mysterious jars, I said, you know what, I'm just going to get myself some mysterious jars and a SCOBY and start doing this at home. Of course, my husband thought I was crazy, but those first batches probably weren't as delicious as they have evolved into, but it was really fun. I really enjoyed that process. And then in 2004, I loved it so much. It was really a passion, a hobby of mine, but I felt I wanted to teach other people about it. And that's where Kombucha Camp with a K, was born as a workshop in my home where I'd invite people over, I'd show them the whole process, I'd share my kombucha with them. They'd end up leaving with a SCOBY so they could start their own. And then as the internet became more popular and people started blogging, I then took that information to the web. And that's where Kombucha Camp was born as a website. And it's been a long journey ever since. It's grown organically, and I'm really fortunate that my husband and I are a SCOBY. I'm the wild and crazy yeast, and he's the structure building bacteria. And together we've built kombuchacamp.com. We've co-authored the Big Book of Kombucha together, and we also co-founded Kombucha Brewers International, which is the trade association representing all commercial kombucha around the world.
Oh, wow, that is definitely very fascinating. So, yeah, you said that it was your roommate's boyfriend who introduced you somewhat unintentionally to kombucha.
That's right. It was a friend from college. His girlfriend was making the kombucha in their apartment in San Francisco.
Tell us, how does kombucha help with skincare?
This is a great question, and it might not seem intuitive at a first glance. So first we'll start with what is kombucha. So kombucha is fermented tea. That means we're taking sweet tea and sugar. We add a culture to it. That culture is called a SCOBY. It stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. It looks kind of like a white pancake or a mushroom cap, which is why some of the old names for kombucha is kombucha mushroom tea, but there are no mushrooms in it. It just is what I call a term of convenience. It looked kind of like a mushroom cap, so that's how it got that name. But after you add that culture to the sweet tea mixture, after a week or so, it turns into this tangy probiotic, full of healthy acids beverage. And if we remember that our skin is our largest organ, and it really is a map of what's happening on the inside. Right, so the foods we're consuming, the toxins we may or may not be absorbing, all of that then ultimately gets expressed through our skin. And I can always tell when I've been a little off the beaten track and not eating as well as I should be, because my skin starts to break out and say, "Hey, you're putting some yucky stuff in us." So kombucha, as a probiotic and with those healthy acids, what it does is it helps to release those toxins from within. Now, it can also be used topically, and if you pop over to the Kombucha Camp Instagram, you will see a picture of me with a SCOBY laying over my face. So it looks a little weird, but it has these really great skincare properties to it as well. Basically, it's the low pH of the product, so it's a little acidic, but that pH is gentle enough that it breaks the bonds of the dead skin cells on your face or anywhere on your body. And so that acts like a gentle exfoliator. So it's going to be a lot more mild than like a chemical acid peel. And then it has this other benefit, vinegar, like it softens the skin. So people who have rough skin, people who have eczema, my mother was visiting and she had some, just like kind of a little sore on her arm, and I took the kombucha vinegar and I put it right on there, like just on a bandage, and within a couple of days the sore was already healing. So people have been using kombucha topically for a really long time, but it helps from both the inside as well as the outside.
Wow, that is definitely very, very informative and very useful. So that is actually a very unique way of using kombucha as well.
Definitely. And what's interesting is the bacterial cellulose, which is basically the bacteria excrete cellulose fibers from every part of their cell being. Those then bond together, and that's what creates our SCOBY, which is this little kind of bacterial cellulose mat that we take from batch to batch. There are people who are developing that into skincare products. So you can buy ready-made masks that are made of bacterial cellulose. The nice thing about making it at home, of course, is because the culture is always reproducing with every batch, you end up with plenty of extras. And so you can then take those extras and use them for your skincare. Now, of course, we would never recommend putting one on your face and then putting it back into sweet tea to make more kombucha. We'd always want to keep that separate. And our book, The Big Book of Kombucha, has several face mask recipes. You can also make a SCOBY cream. So what that is we put the kombucha culture in a blender with some of the kombucha, and it creates this applesauce-like consistency. But that can then be applied to any topical lesions or eczema or something like that. And what happens is that as the liquid dehydrates out of that cream, it adheres to the skin and it almost becomes like a thin layer of skin that then you can peel off. So it's kind of an interesting and remarkable product. And I think we're really tip of the iceberg, but we are starting to see kombucha being added to a lot more skincare products. So there's a line that has, kombucha cleansers. There's another line that's doing kombucha masks. So I think people are really starting to see how the fermented products are helping with skincare.
So why would you say a person would want to consider kombucha versus any other topical remedy?
Well, unfortunately, I think a lot of the products out there, and of course I can't speak for every product, but a lot of products out there are intended to treat symptoms, not root causes. And that's really the difference between kombucha and, steroids or something like that. There definitely is a time and place for needing those types of medicaments, but I feel that if you're not dealing with the root cause of the skin issue, you're never going to fully get to the root of it, right? Basically, it's a signal, right? Your body is trying to tell you, hey, there's something wrong with your system. Because what's happening is you're expressing whatever this is, and it's basically a plea for help. But if what we do is only treat it from that topical perspective and don't go to the gut, don't go to the gut dysbiosis, and kombucha is not the only probiotic you can consume. I mean, yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, all kinds of things are traditionally fermented foods, and they're going to have healthy bacteria that populate the microbiome. And that's really where we're seeing a lot of these issues manifesting, is people with gut dysbiosis, with autoimmune disease and things like that. So when you start treating that root cause, that's when you're able to have a more effective solution that then, glowing healthy skin is the result of a system that's healthy and in balance. And of course, getting rid of impurities and exercise and circulation and all of these are going to be a vital part of that process. So we never like to say that kombucha is going to cure anything or it's going to be the one thing that you need. It's one of many things that you can include in your regimen to ensure that your body is running as it should, and that of course then manifests in your skin. We've also seen some folks have shared that by applying kombucha topically to liver spots or even putting the cream on like stretch marks and scars, that that has an impact of reducing that over time. Now it's a very gradual process. So again, this is, you're going to be applying it and then giving it some time to do its work, but we definitely have seen that happen. Another thing that's happened for me is that I had a really bad case of poison oak. I wish I could say the kombucha cultures got rid of the pain. It certainly did not. I did slap scobies all over my body. and but while it didn't minimize the pain, after I was through that bout of poison oak, it was like maybe a couple years later, I was brewing my kombucha, and I do it with my bare hands. I like to touch the cultures. They feel really soft. I like being in contact with the kombucha. And after I had done it, I noticed that there was some poison oak manifesting on my fingers. And I was like, that's weird. I haven't been hiking. I don't know where this came from. And it didn't, wasn't widespread. It faded away. I went and I did my next batch. And again, it re-emerged on my skin. And I realized was that it was pulling the poison oak toxin out of my body through my skin. And there's been some folks who said, and again, all of this is anecdotal information. You really have to trust your gut. You have to try these different things and see what resonates for you. But I've had some moms tell me, they had children who were hyper, and they put kombucha into a foot bath. And just by having them soak their feet in a kombucha foot bath, that helped to calm them down and shift some of that energy. So there's a lot of ways in which we can be using kombucha either in our bath, as a hair tonic, as a facial toner, and of course as a delicious beverage that will create a lot of benefit for the body.
Wow, that is actually very amazing that kombucha has so many diverse ways of actually helping so many people. So yes, and actually, so how much kombucha would you actually recommend a person to drink a day?
This is a great question. My short answer is, well, how much broccoli should you eat in a day? At some point, your body's like, all right, I had enough. I've got the broccoli thing. I'm good. Same thing with the kombucha. However, it's a little bit different. So if you're new to kombucha, we recommend 2 to 4 ounces first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, because that allows you to feel how the kombucha is working in your system. Part of what we're trying to do when we consume kombucha is to come back to these feedback loops, right? Our body is constantly giving us information about how it's performing based on what we put into it. So trust your gut isn't trust your taste buds. There's a lot of things out there that taste good, but they may not end up with a net positive effect. For example, if you have candida overgrowth, one of the things you crave is sugar. Well, you eat that sugar because you're craving it, because that's what those bacteria want, but you don't feel good after you eat it. You have a yeast infection, or you have whatever other symptoms might be going along with that. So trust your gut isn't just taste what tastes good. It's how does that then make you feel? And so the more that we're paying attention to what we're putting in our body, how it then makes us feel, how it then manifests, the more we can finally tune what it is we're consuming. We can make better choices. And that's a really important part of this process. So trust your gut in terms of how much should you drink is, for some folks, they start drinking it and they really crave it. They find they have a thirst for it. My experience with that was my body was lacking in certain nutrients. And because kombucha has it in a living form, that's easy for your body to absorb. It's not in a chemicalized synthetic form where the shape is different. So your body can instantly uptake that nutrition. And really, I think that's what gives people that like, woo, kombucha feeling of feeling good. And so you might consume a lot of it at first, and then over time you'll find as that nutritional aspect is fulfilled, that maybe you don't need to drink as much. Now, here's the other end of the spectrum. For some folks, they have a little bit of kombucha and they're in the bathroom, right? For them, they're having potentially what's called a Herxheimer reaction. This is where when you start to do anything that can potentially detoxify the body, as those toxins are re-released into your body, you may manifest some symptoms of like a cold or a fever, or you have to use the restroom, because basically it's clearing things out of the way. And so that's where listening to your body and trusting, is this something that I need to dial it back, increase my water consumption because this is too uncomfortable for me right now? Is it something where maybe I need to transition from kombucha into something like milk kefir, water kefir, or something that's a little different, has a different effect on the body, but is also helping to improve my gut health? Or is this something where clearly I'm getting a nutritional benefit, and so I should enjoy consuming this as much as my body is saying it should? So this is where, you know, with everything, right, we have to figure out where on the spectrum is the right amount for us to consume.
Okay, yeah, that definitely is very helpful, very useful advice, especially for people who are going to start into kombucha, to know how much they should be drinking and how it should be feeling for them, how they should react to it as well. So please tell us, like, how is the process that you make kombucha?
It's, you know, here's the thing about kombucha, it's so easy. People make it hard. I have a little song that helps people remember how to make their kombucha. So here we go. We got kombucha tea, easy as 1, 2, 3. Brew sweet tea, add a SCOBY, wait a week and then repeat. So it really is that simple. We're literally brewing tea. So how do we do that? The first thing we do, boil water. Now, because our yeast are temperature sensitive, anyone who's ever made bread or worked with packaged yeast knows that they have a lukewarm temperature range that you're aiming for. So instead of boiling all the water for our 1 gallon batch, we do a concentrate. And this recipe you can find on kombuchacamp.com. You can download it. We give you all that information for free. But basically, we take 4 cups of boiling water. Into that, we steep 4 to 6 tea bags or 4 to 6 teaspoons of loose leaf tea. And I will be specific here. Tea is Camellia sinensis. So again, it can be used as a term of convenience, peppermint tea, chamomile tea, but these, because they're steeped in a similar fashion, but they're not actually tea. So we want to make sure we're sticking to black tea, green tea, white tea. All of those come from the same plant, the Camellia sinensis plant, but how they're processed, when they're picked, that's what gives them those unique flavor profiles and different colors and characteristics. So traditionally it was made with black tea, but these days people make it with a mix of black, green, a lot of different types of tea. So you take your 4 to 6 teaspoons of tea, you steep it in your 4 cups of hot water for about 15 minutes. You then remove the tea leaves either by straining it or pulling out the bags, and then we add 1 cup of sugar. Now that's a lot of sugar. If you have ever tasted your sweet tea before you added the kombucha, it's kind of gross, like it's really sweet. And I think it's a good reminder that the sugar is not for you. The sugar is the nutrients that feed the microscopic organisms, the yeast and the bacteria, and that turns into food that then they create healthy acids out of. And that's what we're looking for, the healthy acids. So, so after we stir in our cup of sugar, we stir in our hopes, we stir in our dreams, we stir in love, right? That super important ingredient that comes with homemade foods that, you know, you can feel love, right? When somebody's giving you love or sharing love. So it definitely is a palpable experience when you put that into your brew. And these are living organisms, so they're sensing that energy as well. So we put in our little bit of love with our kombucha, and then we dilute that by by adding cold water to bring that temperature down quickly. From there, we can immediately add our SCOBY. So for a 1 gallon batch, it's 1 full-size SCOBY, which is about 4 to 5 ounces, and then it's 1 cup of strong starter liquid. And the starter liquid is a really crucial ingredient because it creates a protective pH layer at the top, because that sweet tea is delicious to all kinds of things, including mold. And again, mold is like mold you find on bread, mold you find on cheese, mold that comes on fruit. Right. We're not like, you don't see the mold and go, oh, the mold is getting me, right? Like it's just a normal thing that happens with food. The same is true of kombucha. So we don't need to fear the mold, but we're not going to eat the mold either. So if you get mold in your brew, you always want to throw everything away, start over with a fresh culture. So, so then you put your culture and your starter liquid right on top. Now you cover it with a cloth cover. It needs to breathe, it needs oxygen, but you don't want to use cheesecloth because the weave is too loose. And fruit flies are also known as vinegar flies. And kombucha is essentially a tea vinegar, but instead of letting it get so sour that we don't enjoy the flavor, we're harvesting it when it still has a little bit of, you know, the teaspoon of sugar that helps the medicine go down. But we need that tightly woven, breathable cloth. We put that on there, and then we just set it aside. And this is the hardest part because waiting is the hardest part. Everyone gets really curious. They want to go look at it. Now, here's the thing. The SCOBY does reproduce, but it doesn't just like pop out as a fully formed new SCOBY. It's kind of like watching skin grow in that, you'll see some dots, and then those will start to come together. You'll have a very thin skin on top. In fact, one of the words for SCOBY is zooglia, which means living skin. And then it thickens over time, and that turns into your new SCOBY.
Wow.
Taste. It all comes down to taste. Once it has a sweet sour flavor that you like best, and you can just stick a straw in there and try it, then you're ready to harvest it. So harvesting it is very simple also. We take out the SCOBYs. Now there's 2 of them. We take out 1 to 2 cups of starter for our next batch right from the top. Everything else is yours. That can be flavored. Ginger is the most popular flavor of kombucha. After that is like berry flavored, but any kind of flavor is going to work. You can get super creative, add herbs and other things to it, and then you just start over.
Oh, wow. So that's very unique, a very, very helpful, informative process. And that is kind of interesting. I kind of wonder if it's possible to put in any substitutions if a person would like.
And so that was the basic training wheels of doing kombucha. But absolutely, the SCOBY is flexible technology. We've seen it ferment a wide variety of substrates. But because you want that original mother to reproduce and to remain viable, we always suggest doing that first batch with tea and sugar. And then subsequent batches, you can experiment from there. The book also has recipes on how to make like a coffee kombucha. So no tea is used at all, just coffee or hibiscus or ginger. So it definitely can be used with a lot of different things. There's other sugar sources, maple syrup, agave, things like that you can use. And all of those will impact the flavor, the fermentation time, and things like that.
Okay, yeah, that is definitely very helpful because I'm sure there's a lot of people that might want to try different recipes for themselves as well. And so, like, is it even possible to actually make kombucha with just water?
Not with water because, you need the water to steep the tea, but if you don't have the tea or the sugar, those are the nutrients that the organisms are consuming. For example, sugar is a disaccharide, sucrose. So it's made up of both fructose and glucose. And why it's the perfect sugar for kombucha is that both of those sugar sources feed different elements of the organisms. And then your healthiest acids, the ones that help with that detoxification and liver support, are your gluconic and glucuronic acid. So if you're using an agave or a fruit juice, right, that just has fructose in it. You're not necessarily going to make those G-forming acids. Alternatively, you can use other types of sugar that are higher in glucose, and that's going to yield more of those acids as well. So this really becomes when you start to educate yourself about, what herbs can do, the properties of different plants and berries and things like that, is you can start to create these combinations that, it's not just the kombucha that's good for you, but it's the elements you're putting into it as well.
Okay, that is definitely very helpful. Definitely something that I'm sure a lot of people will start to try for themselves. And so, please tell us also more about your kombucha blog.
Absolutely. So kombuchacamp.com, camp with a K, we provide a ton of free information. Our mission is to change the world one gut at a time, and we know we can't do that alone. And so part of what we do is we empower people with information. When you have that information, then maybe you're so excited you go and share it with somebody else, and then they share it with somebody else, and so forth. And we do that with quality information. And then you're like, okay, I love this. I want to give it a try. Where do you get supplies? Well, we're bacteria farmers. Definitely something I never thought I would have as a job, but that's what we do. We grow high quality cultures with organic ingredients in a state certified facility. So everything is very high quality. We give you everything you need to get started to make it easy. And then now that you have it in your hands, even though you've read everything online, you're still like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I'm freaking out here still. Well, that's where our quality support comes into play. So we answer every email that comes into us. And because we're a small family business, I still do all of the phone orders. So if you're looking at the website and you're not sure, do I go with this continuous package? Which heater is going to be best for me? Go ahead and give me a call. I'm happy to guide you through that process. Obviously, I'm very knowledgeable on the process and our products, and so it makes it easy for me to help you figure all of that out.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, just needed to clear my throat there. So, um, okay, yeah, sorry. So yes, that's definitely very helpful. So also tell us about your kombucha camps.
So Kombucha Camp, we do workshops in person still. More often these days, after the book came out in 2016, it's continuing to be a bestseller. People, as more and more people are finding out about kombucha, they want to learn more, and our book is a great place to do that. It's 400 pages. Got a copy of it right here. Beautiful cover, lots of pictures, 260 flavoring recipes. So we really took over a decade's worth of information and downloaded it into this format. So it becomes a really helpful resource. Even if you're not making kombucha, you just want to learn more about it, that's a great place to go and get that information.
Was that it?
I forgot what you asked me, sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, it's tell us about your kombucha camps.
Oh, yeah. So ever since the book came out, I've been on tour, going to different venues. I speak at fermentation festivals, at conferences, at fairs, and really because again, this is such a weird product. Like I'm the ambassador. It's like meeting an alien, right? Like, and I'm here to tell you, they mean you no harm. They mean you a world of good. Yeah, they look weird. They're kind of slimy, but the reality is there's like so many great, wonderful uses for it. And so we found that introducing it to people directly, we do what's called a culture petting zoo. So we have 4 fermentation cultures we work with: the kombucha culture, the jun, which is a raw honey cousin of kombucha. We also have milk kefir and water kefir. And so we'll bring all of those out. We invite adults, children, everyone to come up and touch the cultures. They're like, pet, I can pet them? And I'm like, absolutely. They're your bacteria buddies, and they build up your bacteria force field. It's really fascinating. The information coming out about the human microbiome is that we literally have a cloud of bacteria that surround us. And so when you're fortifying all of that, that's your force, right? So microbes are your friends, and they help to make your immune system stronger. So I love introducing people to that, getting them really excited about fermentation. And what's really great is it just, fermentation has resurged along with this information about our gut health and all of that. And I think it's really crucial that it's coming out right now, because clearly in the United States, we're at a point where we really need this information. Our autoimmune disease, our cancer rates, everything is really at an all-time high. And it's because we have so many toxins in our food supply, in our water, in our beauty products. I mean, unfortunately, for years, people have been using these products that have been sold as safe, only to find out that these chemicals are accumulating in their body and leading to illness. And so the more that we're going back to some of these older ways of doing things, these more natural ingredients and stuff. And look, not everybody wants to make everything, and that's what's great about the kombucha commercial industry, is you can even then go to a store or find a local brand, or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to start a new business. Getting into fermentation is hot because there's so many people who need fresh living cultures, living microbes, fresh sauerkraut, things like that, that there's a real opportunity for people to not only make a business for themselves, support their family, but also help their community at the same time. So it's a really exciting time to be in fermentation.
Oh yes, of course. And I'm assuming you're selling your own kombucha as well.
Actually, we used to sell a commercial product in the stores to create diversity on the shelves, but now that there's so many commercial brands, we've really devoted ourselves to the education process. And so we not only support home brewers, but we also do commercial consultation. We have cultures at wholesale, so anyone who's looking to start a kombucha business, we can support you in that way as well. And so that again goes back to our greater mission. How do we connect with the most people in the world? Well, it's by empowering all these other people to spread the word about kombucha. So I speak Mandarin, Chinese, and Spanish and English, so that's the majority of the world's population, but there's no way I'm going to meet all 7 billion people on this planet. But of course, my hope is that we'll get to continue to spread this word far and wide as the book gets translated into different languages and so forth.
Oh yes, that's amazing. You have quite the big mission achievement there.
You know, it may not be for everybody, and I get that. Even if your mission is just to get healthy so that you can be in a supportive family, I think that's huge. It is so confusing for consumers today. It takes a lot of effort and bandwidth to really sort through the information out there. And so I applaud anyone who is taking that step for their family's health, for their own health, because that's really who's kind of on the front lines of all of this, are individuals. And there's so many great resources out there, and summits like this that help people learn what are some better ways to care for my skin without piling on a bunch of toxic chemicals is really important, because we've kind of been misled through advertising, which, look, I mean, their job is to sell things, right? So they're doing their job. Now, we as consumers have to do our job and understand, is where I'm putting my money the right place, and money is a form of energy. And so when we support brands and businesses that share our ethics and values, that's how we grow our community, because we know then that we're supporting actual other people. And not to say that there aren't people working in corporations, there certainly are, but when your mission is to maximize profits without considering planet and people as well, that mission ends up hurting people as a result. And so really it's shifting that focus back into supporting those who support other human beings. It's a win on many levels.
Oh, yes, of course. That makes a lot of sense. And you actually mentioned earlier a lot about the different ways that you can vary how you make kombucha, and that there are so many different other recipes out there, which you even have on your own site. So is there any particular one that you would recommend as your favorite?
Well, so my favorite flavor is Love Potion. That's blueberry, lavender, rose. My husband got hooked on pink lemonade, which is strawberry, lemon, and thyme. So my advice out there is, if you're the one person in your family who loves kombucha and everyone else thinks it's weird, don't give up. Keep making it, keep refining it. Your brews are going to get better. They're going to taste better over time. And then, find flavors that you think will resonate with your family. And you can't force anything on anybody, but the more that you're consuming it, enjoying it, engaging in it, and they see your vitality, they see your skin clear, they see how it resonates with you, that then gets them curious, and they want to try it.
Oh, yes, of course. That makes a lot of sense. So the main ingredient, it seems like the key ingredient for kombucha was, I forgot the name. What was it called?
The SCOBY. Yeah, that's the culture, or kombucha culture. That's another name for it. The tea and the sugar. So that's really it. SCOBY tea sugar.
Okay, yeah. So since SCOBY sounds like that would be the key ingredient that most people cannot find, where can you recommend that they would be able to find that?
Absolutely. So, of course, if you have a trusted friend who says, hey, I've got the SCOBY, you want to try it? That's a great place to get it, because we love getting things from our friends. But if you don't have that trusted friend, then Kombucha Camp can be your trusted friend. And like I said, we have all organic ingredients. We're in a certified facility, so you can trust that everything is of the highest quality and to the highest standards. I definitely would caution against going with a dehydrated culture, only because they tend to have a lengthy rehydrating process and often doesn't yield the results that people are looking for. They can go to mold, they can not reproduce as well. The secret to kombucha's power really is in that starter liquid. So starting with a living culture that's already hydrated with that starter liquid is so crucial. So if you are giving away your SCOBYs, just make sure you're putting at least 1 cup of that starter liquid in there so that everyone's starting off on the right foot. But yeah, come to Kombucha Camp, check out what we have. We love helping people get into this. We love reuniting old friends. We've had many people who did this back in the 90s or the 80s, and we get to reunite them with a new SCOBY so that they can continue onward from there.
Oh, yes, of course. That's actually very useful and very encouraging for so many to be able to try kombucha as well. So as for the many different flavors that you've mentioned for kombucha, and the different varieties that they have, would they all have different effects in how they would help the human body, the human gut, or even our skin?
They can, right? So this is what I was alluding to earlier. Like, blueberries are high in anthocyanin, and you can tell that, like, vinegar extracts things. right? Well, we would put herbs and things in vinegar, and that would extract that nutrition so that we could consume it like in a salad dressing or however we might have it. So the same thing is happening with the kombucha. Now it's a much milder acetic acid, so it's not as intensely flavored, but definitely if there are herbs that you know help with skincare or help with different things like that, you can infuse that into the kombucha, and then those benefits end up being passed on to you in that final brew.
Okay, that's definitely very helpful, and that's something to encourage so many people to try kombucha as well. So I may try that too. So,
Great, I hope you do, yeah.
please share with us, what are you most proud of from 2017?
You know, we just had our 5th annual kombucha conference, and that actually means we've only been around for 4 years. We also wrapped up year 2 of the book, and what's really exciting is just how much it's entering the consciousness, how many more people are learning about this. They're waking up to how important it is to have fermented foods in their diet. And so we're really excited to continue that way forward in 2018. So it's exciting to be part of something that so many people are resonating with, that they really fall in love with and feel passionate about. And I'm just really grateful that people are finding out about it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share more about kombucha here.
Oh, yes, of course. And thank you so much for being here, sharing your information about kombucha and its many different benefits that it can help other people, especially also with their skin.
Definitely.
Yes, of course. So please also tell us about your free gift.
Our free gift is our DIY guide. You can go to the Kombucha Camp website, click on recipe. It has the brewing logs from the book. So if you're already making kombucha and you want to have a place to note everything, those are there. If you're totally new to kombucha, it has an email a day for 5 days just to get you learning more about it, breaking it down, because there's so much to know. It can be a little overwhelming at first. And then it also includes our free recipes. So like I said, we give a lot of information away because we want you to feel empowered with those details. And then on our website, we also have, if you type in skincare, you'll find some great blog posts, some really easy masks, hair tonic, things that you can make yourself with your own kombucha or even store-bought kombucha and start trying it on your skin as well.